Ahmed Rehab is an executive director at CAIR-Chicago. All right, let me ask you, one of the interesting things, I don't know about the numbers of protesters, but one of the interesting things is that protesters there are showing up in fairly big numbers no matter what. I thought maybe with Harris at the top of the ticket, you wouldn't see as much of this as you would with Biden. So talk about that dynamic a little bit if you can. Why still protest with Harris at the top of the ticket?
I think with Biden stepping down, the Democratic Party averted a bigger storm, but I think there are still very deep concerns that are more systemic to the current administration and to our government in general. Namely, it is almost the undying support for this far-right government in Israel that acts with impunity, that takes our tax dollars, billions of our tax dollars, in weapons and in aid to do as they may. Right now, a lot of people in this country believe that what is happening there is a genocide, and that our government is abetting and aiding this genocide. And so there's still anger generally against Congress, against the White House, against the upcoming candidates, particularly the party that's in charge right now.
Now, the majority position in the country, I think it's fair to say, whether it's Republicans and even Democrats, is still probably on the Israeli side. In other words, this position is still a minority position. You look at the Democratic platform, just as an example. These are live pictures, by the way, from Chicago. What do you make of what's in the platform? This is the party you would ordinarily support, right? Affirming support for Israel and its fight against Hamas. Now, they are calling for a ceasefire and a hostage release, of course, but they're at the bottom not calling for an arms embargo on Israel. So is the message not getting across from the protesters? Do you feel heard by the Democrats?
I would challenge the view that the pro-Israel politics or view is basically the majority American point of view. I think it's the majority American officials' point of view in both parties. I think you're correct with that. But according to the polls that I have seen, the majority of voters, certainly in the Democratic Party, something north of 60%, maybe 68%, are calling for a ceasefire. And the majority of Americans in general are for a ceasefire, whereas a minority of elected officials have acted or said that they could act for a ceasefire. So there's a sort of a dissonance here between the American people and those whom they represent in government. And the question before the protesters is, if you as elected officials don't support the American people and don't represent them, who do you represent?
Quick thought on how this impacts the election, though, or does it? We did a lot on the, the uncommitted vote of the primaries, but now does it have an impact on whether Harris can beat Trump?
I think it does. I think this is a hill many people are willing to die on because we're talking about tens of thousands of innocent lives that are basically being put to the sword as we speak, and nobody seems to be able to stop it. Our relationship with Israel is such that we have the upper hand, or so you would think, and yet they seem to have the upper hand. We seem to not be able to stop their runaway train, the far right-wing Netanyahu government that has self-declared genocidal goons in its, leadership.
Interesting if you're right about that, and we're going to watch it all week in Chicago. Ahmed, thank you. I want to get a